श्री परमात्मने नमः। अथ अष्टमोऽध्यायः अक्षरब्रह्म योगः. So as we saw earlier, the chapter 8 is all about upasana, which means meditation on the Saguna Brahman or the God with attributes or form. So meditating throughout the life and as a consequence, remembering God at the time of the death, result of it is that this person is able to go to Brahma Loka and then further pursue Jnana Yoga, and he is able to get to liberation. So that is the main concept in this chapter. And Krishna also elaborates about all the steps. He first starts with the 7 terms that he introduced in chapter 7. And then Arjuna also asks the question. Then after that, he elaborates about how one person doing the upasana or thinking about the Saguna Brahman will leave the body. And then he elaborates about the impermanence of the samsara and why we should seek liberation. Those things he talks about. And after that, he talks about the 2 paths, the path of return and the path of non-return. And then he tells Arjuna, therefore, always you should remember me. The fruit of this is more than charity, more than doing rituals like that. He ends the chapter and he puts this in a very high place. So we will briefly do the revision now. Arjuna vacha kim tad brahma kim adhyatmam kim karma purushottama adhibhutam cha kim proktam adhidevam kimuchyate adhiyajñah katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayana kale cha katham nyeyosi niyatatmabhihi. So 7 terms Krishna introduced in the last chapter. We know those terms. Arjuna vacha. Arjuna wants to ask what are those 7 terms, and he is asking Krishna, Kim tad Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam. So what is this Brahman? And what is this Adhyatmam? Kim Karma Purushottama. What is Karma? Oh, the best among the Purushas, Uttama, Purushottama. Adhibhutam cha Kim Proktam. So what is this Adhibhutam? And Adidevam Kimuchyate. What is called Adidevam? Adhiyajñah katham kaha atra. So, who is this Adhiyajña and how is he, the Adhiyajña? Atra dehe asmin Madhusudana. So, in this body, how is he the Adhiyajña? And then, prayana kale cha katham. So, at the time of death, katham, how? Neyaha asi niyatatmabhihi. How are you to be known, basically? How are you to be known at the time of death? So basically 7 terms that he was asking about were, what is this Brahman? What is this Adhyatmam? What is Karma? What is Adhibhutam? What is Adidevam? And Prayana Kala Smaranam. That is at the time of death, how are you to be remembered? Krishna as Saguna Brahman. How are you to be remembered at the time of death? So that was this shloka number 1 and 2. So the general translation was, Arjuna said, O Supreme Lord, what is Brahman? What is Adhyatma? What is Karma? What is Adhibhuta? And who is said to be Adhideva? Who is Adhiyajña in the body? And how is he the Adhiyajña? O Krishna, how are you to be known at the time of death by those of the steadfast mind? Like that, he asked the question. Arjuna asked the question to Krishna. Shloka number 3. Shri Bhagavan Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavodhyatmam Uchyate Bhuta Bhavodbhavakaraha Visargah Karma Sangitaha. So here in shloka number 3 and 4, Krishna gives very brief explanation of these 6 terms. And then he elaborates on the Prayana Kala Smaranam. He talks about it later in detail. So, in shloka number 3, what is he saying? Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So, Krishna is saying, Aksharam Brahma Paramam. So, he describes the Brahman as Aksharam. It is an indestructible entity. Other things are all ksharaha, which are destructible, but this Brahman is the one indestructible entity. And what is Adhyatmam? Swabhavaha. Adhyatmam uchyate. So what is called the Adhyatmam is your own nature, which is your own true self. You are nothing but this Atma. So Adhyatmam meaning Pratyagatma, or the Atma which is dwelling inside you. This is you, your true nature. You are not the body or the mind. You are this Atma. This is your true nature. Like that he explained. And Bhuta Bhava Udbhavakaraha. Visargaha Karma Sangitaha. So what is called karma? He says Bhuta Bhava Udbhavakaraha. Whatever causes the creation of these beings. Like how do we come into existence? We come into existence because of our previous actions, karma. Whatever karma is done, it causes result. Because of the result, we have to be born again and again. So to get away from the entanglement, that is why they say you have to detach from this karma so that the results will not affect you and you will not come into existence again and again. So this is, he explained karma as the actions, the fruitive activities which leads to the beings coming forth. Like that he explained. So the general translation was, the supreme indestructible entity is called the Brahman. One's own self is called the Adhyatma. Actions pertaining to this material personality of the living beings and its development are called karma or fruitive activities. Like that he explained the three terms. So in Shloka 4, he is going to explain the another three terms. Adhibhutam ksharo bhavaha purushascha-adhidaivatam adhiyajñohamevatra dehe deha bhrutambara. So other three terms. Adhibhutam ksharaha bhavaha. He described Brahman as the akshara. Here he says ksharaha bhavaha, which is adhibhutam. All these physical entities which we see are destructible. The ever-changing physical manifestation, which is ksharaha bhavaha, nature of being perishable. Purushaha cha adhidevatam. So what is adhidevatam? We talked about it in great detail. This is nothing but the lord of the subtle entities. That we said was Hiranyagarbha. That is being addressed here as Adhidevam. So when there is a gross entity, before that the stage was a subtle entity. That lord of all the subtle entities is the Adhidevam. And then he's talk about Adhyajnaha. Adhyajnaha aham eva atra. He says that Adhyajna is me. Krishna talks about himself as Ishvara, and he says the Adhyajnam is me. And dehe deha bhrutambara. Deha bhrutambara, oh the best among embodied, he is addressing Arjuna here. I am the Adhyajna. Who is the Adhyajna? We said it related to Ishvara. Ishvara is a seed form from where all the subtle entities came into being. So the Lord who was in the seed form, which is Ishvara, and Krishna says that is me, that is being addressed here. So he says, I am in the body. I am the one who is accepting all the sacrifices. I am there as Adhyajna, accepting all the sacrifices inside your body. Like that he says. So the general translation was, oh, the best of the embodied souls. The physical manifestation that is constantly changing is called Adhibhuta, the universal form of God, which pervades all the celestial gods in this creation is called Adhideva, and I who dwell in every living being, and I am called Adhyajna, or the Lord of all sacrifices. Till Shloka number 4, he gave the answer to the 6 terms. Now the 7th term, the Prayana Kala Smaranam, or thinking about God at the time of death, is going to be elaborated. So Shloka number 5. Antakale cha mam eva smaran muktva kalevaram yaf prayati samadbhavam yati nastyatra samshayah. Talks about Antakale cha mam eva, the person who has remembered God throughout his lifetime. So because of that practice, what happens? He is able to remember God at the time of death. Antakale, time of death. Smaran muktva kalevaram. Kalevaram means the body. Smaran muktva. He remembers God and he relinquishes this body. Yaha prayati saha madbhavam. So what happens to this person? He will get the madbhava. He will get my being, he says. Yati, he will achieve this. Na asti atra samshayaha. There is no doubt about this at all. If you have followed Krishna's teachings, then he says that this is assured. This person, he will come to me. Like that he says. So the general translation is, those who relinquish the body while remembering me at the moment of death will come to me. There is certainly no doubt about this.
Does that mean the person is getting Jivan Mukti?
When you are talking from an Advaitic perspective, you will only talk about two stages, Karma Yoga and Jnana Yoga. In Karma Yoga, Bhakti is combined because you are doing everything for the sake of God. So Karma Yoga, Upasana, all this is combined as one stage. And after you have done that, what is the purpose of that? Is to purify your mind. And then once your mind is purified, this knowledge is given to you. Suppose after you have a very pure mind, you're reading Bhagavad Gita, immediately you will realize who you are. The pure mind is not there. That's why how many other times we read, we are not able to get to the truth. So in Advaitic perspective, if he is doing Upasana, he will not get immediately the Jivan Mukti. He has to do Jnana Yoga, Shravanam, Mananam and Nididhyasanam. We said he must listen to these truths. Then he must do Mananam. He must go to a bona fide guru and he will have a lot of doubts. When we are reading, we have a lot of doubts. He will clear them. Then he will internalize that and he will realize that it is he who is everything. According to this chapter, according to Advaitic philosophy, he will not get Jivan Mukti. He will only get Krama Mukti. Like we talked about sequential liberation, where this person, after having done this Upasana, he will go by stages. Like he will go to Brahma Loka, there he will do Jnana Yoga. Then, so if, according to Advaitic perspective, Jnana Yoga is a must. But according to other philosophies, various kinds of muktis are talked about. Sarupyam, Salokyam, like that you will go into the abode of the God, then you will get the form of the God. Like that, those kind of muktis are being talked about. But that's why I said we should know the philosophy. So in this philosophy, this is how it is explained. We will only talk about Krama Mukti, stage by stage liberation. Shloka number 6. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam tyajatyante kalevaram tam tamevaiti kaunteya sada tad bhava bhavitah. Here he talks about the general rule. As a general rule, Krishna says, whatever you have thought about your whole life, that only you will think about at the time of death. And whatever you think about at the time of the death will be the destiny for you after that. So it is very important what you do throughout your life. If you think about money, bank balance, all those thoughts only will come. Or if you're too attached to people, oh, my son, my daughter, my grandchildren, like that, those thoughts will come at the time you're leaving. Or if you're too attached to things, oh, this gold chain, I kept it in that locker, that has to be given to my daughter, like that. Those kind of thoughts, if you have always had in your life, whatever was a predominant thought in your life will decide what your thought will be at the time of death. And whatever the thought is at the time of death will decide your entire destiny. That's why every minute of our lives, we have to be very careful and we have to use it towards good things. Otherwise, you know what? We say that we should not waste anything. We should not waste food. We should not waste money. But what about time we waste on unnecessary things? It decides our entire destiny. So even 1 minute should not be wasted in a wrong way because it will shape our future. That's why we have to be very careful and we have to use it in a good way. So that's what he is saying here. Yam yam va api smaran bhavam. So whatever api smaran bhavam, whatever you are remembering, Tyajati ante kalevaram. Kalevaram, the body, at the time you are leaving the body, thinking about whatever, tam tamevaiti kaunteya. That only you will get. And sada tadbhava bhavitaha. So therefore, Be absorbed in contemplation of me. We saw the story of the Jada-bharata. He was always thinking about the deer that he was looking after. He was immersed in that thought. When he was dying also, he thought about the deer. So next Janma, he got the body of the deer. So like that, if you have a pet, something, you're very attached to it. If you keep thinking about it, last moment possibility is that that thought will come in your mind. So the general translation is, whatever one remembers upon giving up the body at the time of death, O son of Kunti, one attains that state, being always absorbed in such contemplation. So that was shloka number 6. In shloka number 7, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mamanusmara yudhyacha mayyarpita mano buddhihi 𝐷𝐄𝐈𝐴 samshayah. So here he says, that's why I'm telling you, Arjuna, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu, therefore, at all times, Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Yudhyacha means he's saying him to fight. To other people, the advice is that you should do your karma. Don't have to leave your karma. Do your karma, but when you're doing your karma, when you're doing your daily activities, you should always remember me. And Mayi arpitaha manaha buddhihi. So always dedicate your mind and intellect to me. Mam eva eshyasi asamshayaha. So you will surely attain me. Asamshayaha. Without any doubt, you will surely attain me. So we said some examples we saw when we were seeing the explanation was like how the child who is going around the pillar will hold on to the pillar. What happens when he leaves his hand? He will fall down. Like that, if you leave God, you will fall down. You will just go lower and lower. Your thoughts, your behavior, your actions, everything will go lower and lower. So therefore, you attach in every action, you attach. Oh, I'm cooking today, I have to give the prasad. You will progress spiritually very quickly. We also saw examples like the mother of a newborn child, how she will do everything, but at the back of the mind, she always thinks about her small baby. Like that, you think about God at the time of doing your duties. Like that we saw in the explanation. Okay. The general translation was, therefore, always remember me and also do your duty of fighting the war. With mind and intellect surrender to me, you will definitely attain me. Of this, there is no doubt. So he gives this assurance in shloka number 7. Shloka number 8. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanya-gamina paramam purusham divyam yati parthanu chintayan. So here he gave the advice. What is advice? How will you think about me at the time of death? Abhyasa yoga yuktena. You have to be situated in the yoga of practice. Anything you practice, only that will become your own very nature. Like when you learn driving, it is difficult, but then you don't have to put much effort. You can talk, you can listen to music while you drive. Like that, this should also become very effortless. Therefore, do the practice. Abhyasa yoga yuktena. Be constantly engaged. Chetasa na anya-gamina. The mind should not be deviating. And paramam purusham divyam yati. So then what will happen is you will attain the paramam purusham, the supreme entity, and partha anuchintayan. So the person who does such a constant remembrance will attain the divine entity. So we said that we must, with the mind and intellect, we must think about God. We also said that how the abhyasa should be is that there should be no break. Nairantaryam and dirgha kalam we saw. Break should not be there. One practice you take, you should not take a Saturday, Sunday off. It should be a continuous practice. And it should also not be for a very short period of time. It should be for a long period of time so that it becomes your own nature. The general translation was, with practice, O Arjuna, when you constantly engage the mind in remembering me, the Supreme Divine Personality, without deviating, you will certainly attain me. Shloka number 9. Kavim Puranamanushasitaram Anoraniyam Samanusmaredyah Sarvasya Dhataram Achintya Rupam Aditya Varnam Tamasaf Parastat. Here it is in Thrushtup meter, a different meter. How do you think about this God, the Supreme Personality? Some qualities are given. Or you can also take it as the person who does this abhyasa, thinking about God, reaches the Supreme Personality with these qualities. Either way, it can be taken. So what are the meanings? Kavim. So he is the knower of all. Puranam. He is ancient evergreen. And Anushasitara. He is the controller or the ruler. Anoho Aniyamsam. So he is smaller or subtler than that of an atom. A person will remember him in such a way. Anusmaret. Yaha Sarvasya Dhataram. He is the support of all. Achintya Rupam. Inconceivable. And Aditya Varnam. Effulgent like the sun. Tamasaha Parastat. He is beyond darkness. So these deep meanings we have seen when we saw the explanations. So there's just like a surface meanings. The general translation is knower of all, evergreen and the most ancient one, the controller, the subtler than the subtlest, the supporter of all, inconceivable, effulgent like the sun, and beyond all darkness of ignorance. Shloka number 10. Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva bhruvor madhye pranamaveshya samyak satam param purusham upaiti divyam. So here he talks about the niyamas at the time of death. So 4 niyamas are being talked here. What does this person, this upasaka, what does he do at the time of death? He says, prayana kale manasa achalena. Achalena means with a very steady mind. Prayana kale, at the time of death, his mind doesn't wander because he has practiced throughout his life. Bhaktya yuktaha yoga balena chaiva. So bhaktya yuktaha, he is endowed with devotion and yoga bala through the power of practice and through the yoga power also. What he does is bhruvoho madhye pranamavesha samyak. So between the eyebrows, madhye pranamavesha, he is able to bring this prana, this udana, where he will eject this jiva. So that he is able to bring that between his eyebrows. And then saha tam param purusham upaiti divyam. So this person who is able to do such things, who is able to practice in such a way, he attains the supreme. Like that he says. So one who at the time of death with unmoving mind, attained by the practice of yoga, fixes the prana between the eyebrows and steadily remembers the divine, certainly attains him. Shloka number 11. Yadaksharam veda vido vadanti vishanti yadyatayo vitaragah yadichanto brahmacharyam charanti tatte padam sangrahena pravakshye. Here he is going to talk about the goal of moksha. But we saw earlier, he is not talking about moksha itself. He is going to talk about it in shlokas 20 to 22. Here he talks about certain people who are striving for this moksha. So why are they striving? Why are they doing all these hardships? Like that he explains in this shloka. Yadaksharam veda vidaha vadanti. Veda vidaha means the scholars who describe this aksharam, whatever they describe as imperishable. That is the goal of this moksha. Whatever has been said in the Vedas, that is the goal of this moksha. Vishanti yatayaha vitaragaha. So the sages and all, why are they, what do they enter? They are free from attachment, right? They leave everything and they give themselves to spirituality. Why do they do this? To get to moksha. What do they enter? They get the moksha. And then yat icchantaha brahmacharyam charanti. So the brahmacharis, they do not go into marriage. They are free from attachment and they are free from lust and all that. Why are they practicing all these things? It is because they want to get moksha. Tatte padam sangrahena pravakshe. So he says all these people are striving for one goal, which is moksha, which I will describe to you briefly. Like that he says here. But later only 20 to 22, he is going to describe what is this moksha. So the general translation is, the scholars of the Vedas describe him as imperishable, great ascetics, practice the vow of celibacy and renounce worldly pleasures, enter into moksha. I shall now explain to you briefly the path to that goal. So shloka number 12. Sarvadvarani sanyamya manohridi nirudhya cha murdhyadhayatmanah pranam asthito yoga dharana. So he talks about the upasaka's niyama, the person who is leaving the body, who is remembering God. He talks about further niyamas. So that person has already brought his prana between the eyebrows. Then what does he do? Sarvadvarani sanyamya. So he closes all the gateways, like the sense organs. Sense organs are feeding into the mind. So all the gates he controls and he restrains. Manaha hridi nirudhyacha. Manaha hridi nirudhyacha means he doesn't go with his likes or dislikes. He's got a stable mind. And murdhni adhaya atmanaha pranam. So to the head, what he does is, he brings his prana. It was in the eyebrows. So he brings it from the Agnya Chakra to the Sahasrara. He is able to take the prana there. Astitaha yoga dharana. After that, he is established in yogic concentration. Like that, these are the furthermore niyamas. He's saying after the previous few shlokas back we saw. So this is few more niyamas he's talking about. So the general translation is, restraining all the gates of the body and fixing the mind in the heart and then drawing the life breath to the head, one should get established in steadfast yogic concentration. Shloka number 30. Omityekaksharam brahma vyaharan mamanusmaran yaf prayati tyajan deham sayati paramam gatim. So he gives few more niyamas or few more practices. He says Omityekaksharam Brahma. So Om is called the Ekaksharam. We saw the explanation earlier. So this, he will chant the Om. So this represents the absolute truth, Brahma. It represents this absolute truth. Vyaharan mamanusmaran. So he remembers, he chants his Om and he remembers me. Yaha prayati tyajan deham. Leaving this body in such a way, that person, sahayati paramam gatim. So he will reach the supreme goal. Able to bring the prana to his sahasrara, chant the Om, and then he is able to leave the body. Like that he says. So the general translation is, one who departs from the body while remembering me and chanting the syllable Om will attain the supreme goal. Shloka number 14. Ananyacheta satatam yo mam smarati nityashah tasyaham sulabhav partha nityayuktasya yoginah. So here he says that it is easy to attain me. It is easy to attain me if you follow these two tips, like what I am giving you. He says like that. Ananya chetaha satatam. So without deviation of the mind, satatam, always. Mam smarati nityashaha. So we saw the word, the explanation for satatam as being the nairantaryam. No break should be taken, that we saw. And another word is there, nityashaha. Nityashaha means regularly, also can be interpreted as for a long time. So if you do any practice in such a way, you are sure of success. To get success in spiritual path, this is the two tips that he is giving. Ananya chetaha, without deviation of the mind, that is number one. And remember me without a break, and also remember me for a long time. So it becomes your practice and it becomes your nature. Aham sulabhaha partha. He says that this moksha is actually very easy, but you have to practice for it. Nitya Yuktasya Yoginaha. So for the yogis who are constantly established in this, for them this goal becomes really easy. It is not at all difficult. O Arjuna, for those yogis who always think of me, I am easily attainable because of their constant absorption in me. Number 50. Mamupetya punarjanma dukkhalayam ashashvatam napnuvanti mahatmanah samsiddhim paramam gataah. So here he talks about this Mahatmas. Mahatmas are those people who are striving to get to this perfection. What happens when they get the perfection? He gives the Swarupam of the moksha and the Swarupam of the samsara, the nature of the moksha and the nature of the samsara as well. So he says, what is the nature of the samsara? He gives two words, dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It is a house full of misery. It may not be a full of misery, but whatever you attain in this world, wealth or fame or whatever you have in this world, at one point it will be lost. And then also it will be happiness, sorrow, it will keep coming, like it will be a cycle. So he says this is world of impermanence actually. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. It is impermanent. What you are striving for in this world, however hard you are striving in this world, it will go away in 1 minute. So this is not a permanent thing. Put your mind in what is permanent. Like in Bhaja Govindam also we are learning, right? So put your mind in these permanent things rather than going after these impermanent things. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. And then, so he's talking about these Mahatmas. Mamupetya, he says, they have attained me and they will not na apnuvanti. Na apnuvanti means they will never come back. They will not keep coming back. Like we'll be punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. The cycle will go on for us because we are not realized. But once they realize me, then they will not come back again. So he says, samsiddhim paramam gataha. So they attained the highest perfection. After having achieved that, they will never have to come back and they will never have to be in this house of misery or house of this impermanence. Like that, he combined the two natures of both the samsara and of moksha. And he differentiated between the two. So the general translation is, having attained me, the great souls are no more subject to rebirth in this world, which is transient and full of misery, because they have attained the highest perfection. Shloka number 16. Abrahma bhuvanalokaha punaravartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. So here he talks about the lokas. He wants to say that, okay, you think that you want to go to heaven. Okay, if I do good deeds, I will go to heaven. But that is not the permanent solution. Even if you get a lot of punya, you did good deeds, you did charity, you did service, all that, you will go to heaven. But that will be short-lived. Again, you have to come back. So he talks about Brahma Bhuvana, up to the Brahma Loka. We have 6 lokas above. Those lokas are all impermanent. They are perishable. Up to the Brahma Loka. In Brahma Loka, we said we can get the Krama Mukti. We will go, we'll remember God and we'll go to Brahma Loka. In Brahma Loka, we can realize if you don't realize here while living, which is the Jivan Mukti. So, Brahma Bhuvanat Lokaha. So, up to the Brahma Loka, everything is perishable. Punaha avartinaha Arjuna. They will come back again and again, Arjuna. It is all futile. You try for these things, yes, for some time it will be a happy place. But then you will have to come back, Arjuna. Mamupetya tu kaunteya. If you have attained me, if you have realized who you are, you attain me, punaha janma na vidyate. There is no rebirth for you. Like that he said. So the general translation is, in all the worlds of this material creation, up to the highest abode of Brahma, you will be subject to rebirth, O Arjuna. But on attaining me, O son of Kunti, there is no further rebirth. Shloka number 17. Sahasra yuga paryantam aharyad brahmano viduhu ratrim yuga sahasrantam teho ratra vido janaha. Then he starts to talk about the Brahma's day. Why he wants to talk about the Brahma's day is again to say that you are subject to rebirth. Even after Pralaya, you will be subject to rebirth if you have not realized. Like that he wants to say. He says Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So we saw these calculations earlier. So Brahma's day is equal to 1000 Divya Yugas. That is all the yugas put together, those calculations we have seen. So it is equal to 1000 Divya Yugas. That is the day of the Brahma. And the night of the Brahma is also equal to 1000 Divya Yugas. At the end of the day, what happens? A partial destruction happens. Pralaya will happen. So if you think that, okay, I don't want to do any of these spiritual things, in Pralaya, anyway, I am going to be liberated. No. He says, no, you will not be liberated. Your account will still hold active, your karmic account. Based on your karma, you will again come back. After the Brahma's day, there will be the Pralaya. There, everything will go back into the seed form. Again, from the seed form, everything will come back. And there you will be there. If you have not realized like that, he says that's why he is bringing this into the picture. So, Sahasra Yuga Paryantam, 1000 Divya Yugas is one day. Yet, Brahmanaha. Brahmanaha means he's talking about the wise people. Viduhu, they know this. Ratrim Yuga Sahasrantam. So, the night is also another 1000 Divya Yugas. Ahaha Ratra Vidaha Janaha. He's talking about the wise people that they know this time of Brahma. Meaning, they know this truth. That at the end of Brahma's day also, they will not be liberated if they do not seek the liberation here. So he is emphasizing that here. So the general translation is, one day of the Brahma, which is also called the Kalpa, lasts 1000 cycles of the 4 ages, the Mahayuga or the Divya Yuga, and his night also extends for the same span of time. The wise who know this understand the reality about day and night. Shloka number 18. Avyaktadvyaktayas sarvaha prabhavantyah ragame ratriagame praliyante tatraiva vyakta sanyake. We talked about this in the previous shloka also. Avyaktad vyaktayah sarvaha, from the unmanifest, which is also called the Maya, which is also the seed form. Vyaktayaha, all the things are being manifested. We said from the seed will come the subtle entities, from the subtle entities will come the gross entities. This is what we see as manifested. So, avyakta vyaktaya sarvaha. So, from the unmanifested comes the manifest. Sarvaha prabhavanti. That is, they emanate. Ahaha agame. At the beginning of Brahma's day, what happens? These, from the seed form, all these beings become manifested. Ratri agame praliyante. All these beings will dissolve. It will appear it is dissolved, but it's gone to the seed form. At what time? When it is Brahma's night. After the day of the Brahma, then these beings go back into the seed form. Tatra eva avyakta sanyake. So, in which what is called the unmanifest. Unmanifest means here he is talking about the Maya, which is the seed form, from where every being was manifested. So, the general translation is, at the advent of Brahma's day, all living beings emanate from this unmanifest source, and at the fall of this night, all embodied beings again merge into this unmanifest source. Shloka number 19. Bhutagramasya evayam bhutva bhutva praliyate ratriagame vashaf partha prabhavatyah ragame. So here he talks about again creation and dissolution. Bhutagramasya evayam. Bhutagrama means these multitude of these beings that we talked about earlier. I am bhutva bhutva praliyate. Repeatedly, they will come into existence and they will dissolve. Now he is saying praliyate, which means it will dissolve. Ratri agame. In the night time, these beings repeatedly they will dissolve. And he says very important word here, avashaha, helplessly. Don't think you are such a big person. You can do nothing. You will be helplessly coming from the seed into existence and going back. You think you are such a great person? Absolutely nothing. You are helplessly being drawn into the cycle. Avashaha partha prabhavati ahaha agame. So again in the daytime, you come back. How? Helplessly you come back. You're thrown into the cycle. That's all. The general translation is, the multitude of the beings repeatedly take birth with the advent of the Brahma's day and are reabsorbed on the arrival of the cosmic night to manifest again automatically on the advent of the next cosmic day. So, shloka number 20. Parastasmat tu bhavonyo vyakto vyaktat sanatanaha yassa sarveshu bhuteshu nashyatsu na vinashyati. So the shloka, the first line we said, the whole line we'll read together because of the chandas rules. Paraha tasmatu bhavaha anyaha avyaktaha avyaktat. So what he says is, other than the avyaktat, we are talking about two unmanifested here. There is manifested, what we are perceiving with our senses. And he said that there is one unmanifest, from where all this manifest were coming into being. Now, he is talking about one more unmanifest, which is there, which is different and which is apart from the unmanifest that he talked about. That unmanifest he talked about was this Maya. Now, he is talking about this unmanifest called this Brahman, which is the permanent entity. Maya will keep going from manifest, unmanifest, it will keep switching, but Brahman will be the permanent entity. So he says, Paraha, Bhavaha. So it has got a different nature. And Anyaha, it is different from that of this Maya. What are the properties of this unmanifest, which is the Brahman? It is Sanatanaha, it is eternal. And Sarveshu Bhuteshu Nashyatsu na Vinashyati. The gross things, they will all be destroyed. But this Brahman is the permanent entity. It is the eternal entity. Then this is the goal of our life, to know this permanent entity. All other things will perish. So going after that, it is not the goal of this life. So the general translation is, transcendental to this manifest and unmanifest creation, there is yet another unmanifest eternal dimension. This realm does not cease even when others do. Shloka number 21. Avyakto kshara ityuktaha tamahuh paramam gatim yam prapya na nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So here he is talking about the Videha Mukti, where you will be liberated here and now. You don't have to go to any other loka. You can be liberated here and now while living, which is the Jivan Mukti. And as a consequence of this, you get what is the Videha Mukti, which means no further body or no further birth. So, Avyaktaha Aksharaha iti Uktaha. It is said to be Aksharaha. It is said to be imperishable. What? This unmanifest, which is the Brahman. Tamahuhu paramam gatim. And that is the final destination, or that is the supreme destination. Yam prapya nanivattante. You will not come back when you have reached this. Tadhama paramam mama. This is my supreme abode. This is the abode, or this is the goal that everybody must strive for. So the general translation is, that unmanifest dimension is the supreme goal. And upon reaching it, one never returns to this mortal world. That is my supreme abode. Shloka number 22. Purushassa paraf partha bhaktya labhyastvananyaya yasyantasthani bhutani yena sarvamidam tatam. So what we said in shlokas 20 to 22, he is talking about this moksha. What is this moksha? Basically, it is the permanent thing. It is the unmanifest, which is Brahman. All this is explaining. And this is the last of those set of shlokas. So he says, Purushaha Saha Paraha Partha. The supreme entity is the greatest, O Arjuna. And how is this attained? Bhaktya labhyah tu ananyaya. It is obtained with devotion. What kind of devotion? Ananyaya bhakti. To know that there is nothing, but there is just this one entity, which is a Brahman. That kind of realization when it comes, then you have this Ananyaya bhakti. There is no second. There is just one which pervades everything that he talks about in the other line. Yasyantastani bhutani. So it is situated in all the beings, and yena sarvam idam tata. This one entity is what pervades this entire universe, this entire creation, all the beings, all the animate and the inanimate objects. There is only pervasion by this one entity. That knowledge, if you get, that is realization. So the general translation is, the Supreme Divine Personality is greater than all that exists. Although it is all pervading and all living beings are situated in him, he can be known only through undivided, undifferentiated devotion. Shloka number 23. Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginah prayatayanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha. So here he is talking about two paths. He is going to talk about a path of return and the path of non-return. Who are all the people who go in the path of return, and who are all the people who will go in the path of non-return? Yatra kale tu anavrittim. So anavrittim is no return. So that path of no return, avrittim cha eva yogina. Avrittim, also the path of return that the sadhakas or the yogis take. Prayataha yanti tam kalam. So having departed in either of these paths, vakshyami bharatarshava. I shall describe to you these two paths through which the people can live. And one path there will be return, and one path there will be no return. So he says here, I shall now describe to you the different paths of passing away from this world, O best of Bharatas. One which leads to liberation, and the other leads to rebirth. After enjoying celestial pleasures, they again return to the earth. So the path of return he's talking about. So he's going to elaborate on this. Shloka number 24. Agnir jyotiraha shuklaha shanmasa uttarayanam tatra prayata gacchanti brahma vido janaha. First, he's talking about the bright path. We talked about this earlier. They are not talking about the time of leaving the body. They're talking about the path. There are some devatas which will be guiding in this path. So this is a path of non-return, which is governed by these devatas. Agnihi, the fire devata; the Jyotihi, the light devata; Ahaha, the day devata; Shuklaha, the bright fortnight of the moon; and Shanmasa Uttarayanam, that is the 6 months of the northern course of the sun. Tatra prayataha gacchanti. So those who depart like this, Brahma vidaha janaha. So these people, they are the knowers of the Brahman, he says. So they will go to Brahma Loka. From there, they will get the Krama Mukti. They will do the Jnana Yoga and they can get the Krama Mukti. So that is the path of non-return. And it is governed by these devatas. These devatas will guide the jiva. After passing away, they will be guided by these devatas. If you go in the bright path, based on what? Based on what you have done in your entire life. If you have meditated on God, if you have thought about God, then you will go in this bright path. So the general translation is, those who know the Supreme Brahman and who depart from this world during the sun's northern course, the bright fortnight of the moon, and the bright part of the day attain the supreme destination. Then Shloka number 25. Dhumo ratristatha krishnaha shanmasa dakshinayanam tatra chandramasam jyotihi yogi prapya nivartate. So here he is talking about the dark path. Dark path means governed by certain devatas. This is also the path of return. And next shloka, we'll see who goes in the path of return and who goes in the path of non-return. So, Dhumaha, so the smoke devata, Ratrihi, the night devata, Tata Krishnaha, the dark fortnight of the moon, and Shatmasaha Dakshinayana, the sun's southern course, the 6 months of the sun's southern course, Tatra Chandramasam Jyoti. So they go with the lunar light. Yogi Prapya Nivartate. So this type of a yogi, he also has done good things. He will go to heaven and all that. But he will have to come back. So the general translation is, the practitioners of the Vedic rituals who pass away during the 6 months of the sun's southern course, the dark fortnight of the moon, the time of smoke, the night, attain the celestial abodes. If you have performed Vedic rituals in the prescribed way, they will go in this path. It is a good path. They will go to the good lokas, but it will be a path of return. Shloka number 26. Shukla Krishne Gati Hyete Jagata Shashvate Mate Ekaya Yatyana Vrittim Anyaya Vartate Punaha. So he's talking about these two paths. He's summarizing that Shukla Krishne Gatihi Yete. So these two paths, Shukla is the bright and Krishna is the dark. So these two paths, certainly Jagataha Shashvate Mate. So this is the eternal paths. This has been there, existing. Ekaya Yati Anavritti. One will be the path of non-return, Anavritti, and Anyaya Avartate Punaha. So by the other path, Avartate means come back, Punaha. Again, they will have to come back. Even if they have done very good deeds, they will have to come back just because they didn't get to the point of realization. So the general translation is, the two bright and the dark paths always exist in this world. The way of light leads to liberation and the way of darkness leads to rebirth. So here we saw the various kinds of people. Maybe just recap very quickly. The Sakama Karmi, the person who is doing the karmas, but he is doing it in a good way only, but he is expecting the results out of it, but he is doing good karmas. He will go to heaven. We said that Nishkama Karma Yogi, like if he doesn't have any desires, if he does the karmas, then he will get the purity of the mind, and in this purity of mind, he can go directly to Jnana Yoga while living. That will be the benefit for him. And then what about the person who has meditated on God, thought about God, the Saguna Brahman with attributes? If you do in the Sakama way, if you are expecting some return, you will get the punya. You will get the merit of it, and you will go to the good lokas, like the path of return. You will go in that path. And if you do in Nishkama way, you will get purity. And when you get purity, choices that you can do the Jnana Yoga when you are living here. If you fail to do that, still you are remembering God, then you will go to the Brahma Loka and the Krama Mukti that we saw. What happens to Adharmi? Really bad results for him. Neither here nor good lokas he will get. Then Yoga Brashta we saw previously in chapter 6 we saw. So he has done Jnana Yoga. He did Karma Yoga, he did Jnana Yoga, but he couldn't complete the Jnana Yoga. He didn't realize that such a person will be born in very good families, spiritual families, where he will have the environment to further pursue his spiritual thing. So that is why in this Janma we should not leave this chance. You should pursue further. So next Janma we can get into such conditions where it will be congenial for us to pursue further. So that is why this birth should not be wasted. And then Jnani will be Agati. That means he has no path at all. After death, there is no body. Again, he doesn't come back. Okay, so Shloka number 27. Naite Sruti Partha Janan Yogi Muhyati Kaschana Tasmat Sarveshu Kaleshu Yoga Yukto Bhavarjuna. So here Krishna says Tasmat, which is a big Tasmat. This Tasmat means therefore, big therefore Arjuna. These two paths are there. Sriti Partha Janan. The yogi, he knows that these are the two paths. So what he will do, he will try to go in the path of non-return. He will always strive. Throughout his life, he will strive to elevate himself. So if we elevate ourselves wherever we are now, maybe in any place we are, but if we consciously elevate ourselves, our next birth will be better. We will not slip down. Therefore, the yogi, he knows these two paths, and muhyati, he is never bewildered. He is not at all confused. Kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu. Therefore, Arjuna, always yoga yuktaha bhava. Please be a yogi. Please go in this path. Don't go for the impermanent things in life. Go for the permanent thing, which is remembering God. Like that, Krishna said. So, yogis who know the secret of these two paths, O Arjuna, are never bewildered. Therefore, at all times, be situated in the yoga. Then last shloka, 28, he did the stuti of this yoga. Why you should remember God, why you should do upasana, like that he said. And he ended the chapter. Vedeshu yajneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. So here he says, this phalan for this yogi who is doing upasana, who is meditating on this God, because if you do something physically, it is easy, but if to do something mentally is really difficult, and this person is focusing his mind on God, which is very difficult, therefore he gets such a superior result, which is much better than Vedeshu Yajneshu. Vedic rituals that are being said, it has a lot of potency. If you do it in the correct way, it will give you very good results. But more than that, this upasaka is superior. Tapassu chaiva. You have done austerities. You have done some vratas. So more than that, this upasana holds merit. Daneshu yat punya phalam. Daneshu, charity. In this Kali Yuga, charity is said to be the way for progress. Charity has been highly talked about, but more than this charity, this upasana holds merit. Atyeti tat sarvamidam viditva. More than all these things I have told here, yogi param sthana upaiti chadyam. This yogi who is doing this upasana, who is remembering God at all times, at the time of death, this person, he gets such a supreme abode. He gets to the supreme abode. So the general translation is, the yogis who know the secret gain merit far beyond the fruits of Vedic rituals, the study of the Vedas, performance of the sacrifices, austerities and charities. Such yogis reach the supreme abode. So just close this chapter. Om Tat Saditi Srimad Bhagavad Gitasu Upanishatsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Akshara Brahma Yogo Nama Ashtamodhyayah Sarvam Krishnarpanastu.